Okay, now this is different. I don't normally make videos about aviation, or more accurately, I never have. But I've been into planes for far longer than I've been into trains, so I may as well give it a go every now and then. Anyway, earlier this year I visited Portugal and Spain, and obviously needed a way to get between them. With the current rail services across the border being really slow and inefficient, I had no choice but to fly. The flight itself was a rather nondescript 90-minute hop, most of which I spent asleep, but I had enough time at Lisbon's airport to take it in. On the one hand, it's a very popular stopping point for American vacationers to Europe, thanks to flag carrier TAP Portugal's notably cheaper transatlantic fares and a dedicated stopover program, not to mention having tons of connectivity to Brazil. But on the other hand, the airport is heavily slot restricted, unpopular with environmentalists, and just poorly designed. Let's go take a look. No matter where I am in the world, I always try to take the train to the airport whenever I can. In this case, getting to Lisbon's airport is fairly quick, with the red line of the metro opening an extension to the airport in 2012. It's just a 20-minute ride to the city center on a train that makes frequent stops, which kind of gives you a sense for just how close the airport actually is to the city. 3 stops down the red line is Oriente train station, which is a major hub for regional and intercity trains in all directions. I made a whole video about that station which you can watch after this. The airport has been around since 1942. Of course, the airport would boom as the city's tourism did, though growth would always be a bit of a challenge with how hemmed in it was. In many ways, the airport itself is symbolic of the whole city's broader challenges with overcrowding of tourists. They've tried many things over the years to squeeze out just as much capacity as they can, all to the growing concern of activists and pilots alike, who collectively believe that a brand new airport, as far away as possible, is the only way forward. But first, it's probably worth talking about just how Lisbon's airport got so significant. As I hinted at in the beginning, TAP offer very competitive transatlantic fares across many destinations in the Americas, and can also include a 10-day stopover in Portugal bundled in. As part of that, you get a 25% discount on all domestic travel on TAP during your stay, though if I was doing that, I'd still take the train, at least if I was remaining on the mainland, of course. According to TAP, discounts are also available in many other services of note to tourists across the country. What's more, being part of Star Alliance, the largest of the 3 global airline alliances, maximizes the number of frequent flyers that they can reach, which in a North American context means both United and Air Canada members can easily get shared benefits. TAP already fly to 4 of United's 7 hubs, with the 5th one in Los Angeles coming very soon. And in Canada, they hit both Toronto and Montreal. That's all well and good, but where Lisbon Airport really shines is its geography. It's well known that the likes of Emirates and Qatar Airways have been so successful, largely thanks to being within an 8-hour flight of a huge chunk of the world's population. And Lisbon in a way is kind of similar. Aside from Keflavik in Iceland, which of course isn't even in mainland Europe, Portugal's airports are the closest international airports in the Schengen area to North America, which means that it's much easier to get to those destinations with smaller planes. Everyone loves to talk about how the A321XLR will be the future of transatlantic travel, but in what might be a shock to you, TAP don't have a single XLR on order. Instead, just using the A321LR, though that still has a really impressive range of 7,400 kilometers, and from Lisbon can fly non-stop to the likes of New York, Austin, Philly, DC, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, Chicago, Minneapolis, Toronto, and Montreal, among others of course. Though in practice, they will use their A330s on the busier routes, but you get the idea. Not only is Lisbon far west, but it's also far south, which puts them closer to Africa and enables all sorts of interesting routes across the continent, mostly to former Portuguese colonies like Angola and Mozambique, but a few other places too, mainly along the west side of Africa. However, above all, the most important destination for Lisbon is easily Brazil. There's obviously very strong demand for travel between the two countries, and across TAP's 13 destinations is a total population of around 70 million in the metro areas. The A321LR's appeal is even more pronounced here. As while Brazil's largest cities are too far south for it, those have more than enough demand to fill wide bodies, sometimes with multiple flights per day. The LR is within range of Salvador, Recife, Natal, Fortaleza, Belém, Manaus, and just barely the capital of Brasilia. Again, many of these routes actually use wide bodies, but the point is that the LR can reach those places if ever needed. Overall, it shouldn't surprise you that Brazilians visiting Europe, and even Europeans visiting secondary cities in Brazil, will seek to connect in Lisbon. So when you combine strong geography, a very appealing stopover program, and constant flows from one of the world's most populated countries, Lisbon Airport really does pack quite a big punch. But it's running out of space. Quickly. Perhaps the most drastic change that the airport has tried was closing one of the two runways in 2019. Runway number 1735 was not used as often due to being shorter and having a trickier approach, but at least it still existed. While closing it would allow more space to store aircraft, having just one runway effectively made the airport's single point of failure. It also mandates heavier slot restrictions, which all makes the airport prone to huge delays and meltdowns if something goes wrong. Being in a small area very close to the city center also means that a huge swath of the population are more vulnerable to noise pollution. Indeed, just under 500,000 people live within 5 kilometers of the airport, and the approach onto runway number 0220 is right over downtown. The airport has recently adopted a curfew that bans aircraft movement between 1 AM and 5 AM, but that'll do little to change things. Unfortunately, work at a new facility has moved at a snail's pace, even though it's been discussed for decades now as the only way forward. Last year, a decision was finally made on the site, and naturally, my first question was whether a rail link would be constructed. Given that this is fundamentally a transit channel, of course, I guess I should talk about what the rail link might look like, if I haven't lost my regular viewers already. When the airport's site was officially announced last year, it also came with the unveiling of a third crossing of the Tagus River to go along with the existing 25th of April and Vasco da Gama bridges. The crossing is due to have rail on it, and if plans are fully realized, it would have 4 tracks, 2 for high-speed rail and 2 for urban and regional services. It's also hoped that as part of this, the tracks will extend to the new airport either directly or with a branch. Tagus could also expand its network to run on the third crossing, having expressed an interest to do so in the past, and maybe even stop at the airport too. In an ideal world, we'd end up with a situation similar to Frankfurt, where you can get ICE trains straight from the airport to basically anywhere else in Germany, including even to Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Austria. I'm imagining a situation where you have trains right from Lisbon airport all the way to Madrid, Atocha in under 4 hours. Come on, surely we can do that, right? Though above all, my one wish for the new airport, just as a regular traveler, is please do not do what the current one does, where your gate is only announced an hour before departure. I get that the intention is to keep customers shopping for as long as possible. Heathrow are a notable example of doing that, though at least at Heathrow they announce the gate 90 minutes before departure, not 60. So if you're at one end of the airport and your gate is announced to be at the other end, then yeah, you're screwed. Or just, become an av geek like me and actually track down your plane on Flight Radar 24 to see where it's parked. But speaking of my plane, I did of course fly to Barcelona, and I have lots of exciting videos to bring you from my time there. I'll attempt to unravel what is one of the world's densest and most complex transit networks. So be sure to subscribe if you'd like to catch all that. See you then.